What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me on the panel are the usual suspects, Robert DeFelice.
The UK is awesome.
And from the UK, we've got Callum Wiggins.
Yes, I am.
We are talking WWE NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. That just happened a couple minutes ago, and we are going to give you our fresh first opinions, our first impressions, whatever the hell you want to call it. This is the post-show of that show, so we're going to be reviewing all the results that happened and our thoughts on all the things that happened, all the happenstances, and so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and start things off with the pre-show, which was nothing. I mean, it was just a recap. So this is maybe one of those few times where we actually needed the recap to a certain extent, since we haven't really been following it super duper as close as we do for, like, you know, Raw and such. You guys check it out?
I didn't get a chance to, I'll be honest.
I was doing it. While I was doing the dishes, I was watching it, just because I knew that it was going to be just a whole load of nothing, really.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a whole load of nothing, this is my favorite kind of whole load of nothing, which is it's just the two commentators talking about all the matches, and it's only half an hour, so it doesn't hurt really.
Just goes to show you can do that in half an hour, and it's perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, it's just, I don't like the round table format. It's just too many voices talking about something that doesn't actually matter, because if you haven't seen it, then
you're not watching the pre-show anyway.
Yeah, more for you essentially. Really, it's just the fact there was just two people who are also going to be like with the entire show from start to finish, because they're the ones that are doing the commentary on it, shows that they're people that are most invested with telling the story. So it made sense for them to be the ones doing the pre-show. Just two people is fine. Two people, half an hour, totally fine with it.
Good to see that they didn't have to pull in somebody like a Michael Cole to do the commentary too. They left these guys up to their own.
Well, yeah, they didn't ruin it, so that's good. But bringing Michael Cole in.
I like Cole.
I'll be honest, I think Vic Joseph needs a little bit of work. I do like him overall, but he just fell flat at certain points in the show, which we'll talk about later.
I love Nigel.
Awesome.
I love Nigel in this show. He's so passionate about all of this side of things. You can tell that he really cares about all the people putting on a good show.
Still not the biggest fan of Nigel on commentary, but
it was the accent.
It's not the accent. It's more so just I don't feel like the enthusiasm translates to me as well. Like, I feel like it's fake. I don't know.
It's probably enhanced, like, beyond what he actually feels about it. But that's kind of what wrestling is, really. I know Ronaldo makes it sound a little bit more.
Ronaldo, I mean, you could tell that the dude's actually into it, because he's just, you know, having a heart attack every time anything happens.
I feel the disconnect was a bit less for this one because it's a UK show, and I think he's very passionate about the UK standing out above everyone else.
Yeah, you could tell that he was super excited.
It was live as well, so that was good.
Yeah, that helped a little bit too, and it was good to see not only just the excitement level amped up with that, but the crowd too. I mean, I couldn't understand 9 out of 10 of the chants. I don't know if it's because of the accent. I don't know if it's because of just the cadence of the chants. It's
because we're creative, Tony.
Well, they're like,
say this is awesome. This is wrestling over and over and over again.
Well, I couldn't actually understand the words themselves for a lot of it. Like,
that's true.
You know, because it kind of just sort of was like, and I was just like, I can't pick out the words and stuff. Like, it took me like a good 10 minutes to understand the Zack Gibson shoe thing. If you hate Zack Gibson, take your shoes off. That's what it was, right?
Shoes off if you hate Gibson is the chant, to the tune of Go West by the Village People. Which,
tell you the truth, Go West by the Village People, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. If somebody were singing it, I might be able to be like, oh yeah, I've heard that before, but like, yeah, it's not like macho man, like where it's like, you know, off the top of my head or something. But that affected me a little bit on this show, I have to admit, because I could tell that they were super, super into it, but I couldn't connect the same way. But it was still really fun to see, like, you know, they could have been saying things in a completely different language. You know, like if they go to NXT Asia and everybody's chanting in Mandarin or something, you could still get that energy from an excited crowd. So that's cool.
Okay, so since we're talking about the chants, what is the origin of the table, table, table? Because that was fun.
Well, that's like, it's like Gable. The Gable, Gable, Gable.
Yeah, what is the actual, where do they steal that from? Or is that just them being like, yeah, table?
I can't say that I have like a legitimate knowledge of all the chances origin or the music that they used as the basis for it. So I can't help you there.
Ah.
As far as I'm aware, like Gable was the one that was doing it for the first place anyway, and that didn't start in the UK. The US people were doing that as well, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't say that this is an entirely British invention.
All right.
Let's just get into the start of the night. It was the NXT UK Tag Team Championship inaugural crowning. Who's going to win? It's either Moustache Mountain or Grizzled Young Veterans. And we had talked about this before, that we were kind of looking at this as potentially the best match of the night, and that it could have potentially also been a little bit of a swerve because Moustache Mountain clearly going in as the favorites, but I think we all actually might have gone with Gibson and Drake as our picks. And if so, then we all got that right, because they captured the titles in the end. Very good opener, in my mind. Maybe actually my favorite match of the night. It's between this and one other one, the main event. But I dug it a lot. Bate had a good spot, doing that like twirl for both of the guys. They had a good suicide dive spot. The shooting star press was good. Just a rock solid, damn good match.
Don't you fucking love tag team wrestling, man?
When it's good, it's good. I love when they actually have a match that isn't just the same exact formula, because it's really it's been fucking exhausting to watch like Monday Night Raw and be like, all right, here's the spot where the person's going to do the one thing and then the other person's going to do this, then it's going to lead to a distraction, and then we're going to get some kind of a win. Like, we got that to a certain extent on this, but it wasn't the same exact like rhythm. So I dug that a lot more.
They did a suicide dive, fucking Doomsday device. How cool was that?
It's great to see this classic heel tag team work by Gibson and Drake. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the Revival, and they do this stuff so well. And when like a heel team actually knows how to get heat and cut off the like hot tag attempts and really like play to the crowd, it just enhances any sort of tag team match. So they could be doing the most basic stuff, and these guys weren't doing basic stuff, but the fundamentals are so well, like so firmly in place that anything above that is a bonus. And the crowd is just so into both Bate and Seven that anything they were doing, they were going crazy for. Every time that Gibson and Drake were cutting them off, the crowd was just booing so intently, and everyone hates Zack Gibson. And it's a very long-standing thing with the British crowd. He's one of the foremost heels in all of British wrestling, and it's translated over into NXT UK, which is great to see. And yeah, I thought everything about this match was fantastic. I love the homage being paid to the British Bulldogs with the running like Oklahoma Slam followed by the diving headbutt. Even though every time I see a diving headbutt, it makes me feel uncomfortable now.
Yeah, it's true.
Because there's the two guys that are well known for using that move. Well, there's three guys well known for using that move. Two of them had pretty tragic life stories, and one who's currently WWE champion but has a history of multiple concussions. So I hope that Bate doesn't put that into his arsenal more frequently.
He's a big, strong boy, guys. He's an anomaly. He's really good.
He's a freak of nature. Like that airplane spin, it was a bit convoluted to put the plane spin together. It's like one of those spots that you just look at and go, okay, wrestling's fake, but it's fun. But then he actually just lifts both of them and does swing, and that's like legitimate strength. It's unbelievable.
Especially for somebody his size, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I love the near fall after the 450 splash by Drake, because it just looks like that's going to be the end of the match because Bate's nowhere to be seen. and he leaves the 2 count just to the very, very last second and gets up, and the crowd goes crazy. But my favourite spot was the Doomsday Device suicide dive, because I don't think I've ever seen that in a match before. And it's just so nice to see something that you've never seen before in a match.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely one of those ones that if you didn't check out this pay-per-view, and I really kind of assume that most people didn't, just because it's NXT UK, go back and at least check out some of the highlights when it comes to stuff like this, because very, very solid match.
You know what? I'm going to just say over you there. Watch the whole thing. It's a very short and well done show. Watch the whole thing.
There's a match I'm going to say that, maybe even 2 matches that I could say that you could skip, actually. But, yeah, we'll get to that. Any other thoughts on the tag team title match?
The titles look good.
Yeah, I like the titles.
Yeah, they do. Hell, these titles are like my second favorite title design in WWE now, right behind the Intercontinental Championship. These are the best looking new championships in a very long time.
And it's just a case of having them beat Moustache Mountain in such a great match as well. Just instant credibility for both Drake and Gibson. So it's like just a big win to start off the show. Even though the crowd hated, obviously, the result, but they respected the match enough to give them some sort of like commends after the match.
Now, do you guys think that this is going to be a scenario where Moustache Mountain's kind of out of the running and the next tag team champions are going to be like Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, or Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams? Or do you think it's just going to circle back around to Moustache Mountain? Because that's what I'm going with.
I think the long term is to have Moustache Mountain like claim the win on maybe the next big show they do. But in the meantime, we'll have people like Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews and Kenny Williams, Amir Jordan, maybe Gallus, even if they decide to switch things up. Get a few title opportunities on like weekly shows in the build up to it. But yeah, I think next big show it has to be Moustache Mountain getting the victory back.
I think the Coffey brothers win it, but it's in a triple threat with Moustache Mountain, so that they don't have to go heel versus heel.
I could also see, for just like a one-off, Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan getting a shot.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be one of the best tag team matches you could put on today.
Also, during the match, and I don't think like most people would have got that, but after watching it, I'm really excited for when Tyler Bate turns heel on Trent Seven at some point.
Me too.
Because I could tell in elements of that match that either Bate or Seven, it's obviously that Seven is the weaker link out of the two due to his age and his size.
Right.
And Bate is the star coming out of it. So I think Bate should be the one that eventually goes heel off of him. Just because you can have like the likable veteran rather than have like the heel veteran that's gotten gotten surly with his young tag team partner, more along the lines of the younger tag team partner realizes that he's being dragged down and wants to rise above it. So, but I'm really looking for that story. I don't think it should happen for a good year or so from now, but at some point it's going to be a great feud.
I actually thought that Seven was going to tap to play off that story, because isn't that how they lost the NXT titles as well?
Yeah, they did the whole thing with the foot, and then it was like, you know, they teased it later on about the whole like being able to hold on a little bit longer, and you know.
Yeah, they're throwing the towel in as well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be something to look forward to for sure. And then we're going to get, you know, heel Tyler Bate probably will end up being champion material again. And then, you know, I mean, there's lots of future when it comes to a lot of these people, but Tyler Bate's one of those guys for sure that it's like, come on, this guy's a star.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Seven, not as much. So he's the sacrificial lamb between the two for sure. Yeah, really a big fan of this. And I had started to write up that there was a low point following this, because the Travis Banks, Jordan Devlin thing to me was just really not all that much going into it. I mean, the two were feuding and it was like just sort of bare bones feuding. And then they did this whole thing ahead of time where Jordan Devlin attacked Travis Banks before the pay-per-view. And I really was just looking at this as like, don't tell me that this is going to be some kind of a stupid squash. And, you know, Banks is going to like show a lot of heart, but not be able to get much, and then Jordan Devlin's going to look like a dick, and then whatever. Until they did the whole spot where they started fighting beforehand, and Johnny Saint and Sid Scala came out. Then I was like, okay, I got this. We're getting a new replacement. I wonder if it's... And then I started to go through the whole list. Did you guys go through the whole thing, like, in your brain, too? Or did you have Finn Balor in mind?
I knew who it was, yeah. I know.
No, as soon as he opened his mouth and said, "I'm the greatest Irish wrestler,"
Yeah.
I started to wonder if Lynch was going to confront him. But then I thought, I know Balor's there.
Yeah, we knew Balor was in the UK because of the Performance Center stuff, so it made all the sense for him to be the one in this match.
Yeah, see, I didn't quite make the connection because I didn't hear the "I'm the greatest Irish wrestler" thing, since I was just like writing up some other things at the time and stuff. So to me, it was mostly just like, we've got a replacement, and I was like, oh, is it Aleister Black? Is it just ran through the whole list and stuff like that. But we get basically like the Sonic versus Metal Sonic fight, where it's Jordan Devlin versus the guy who Jordan Devlin looks like, you know.
And who trained him. I mean, this is...
Yeah, it's mentor and pupil. It's two clones against each other, essentially, and I liked it. I liked the swerve better than I liked the match, but I can't complain about the match, you know.
I liked like one major thing. Like there was one piece of communication where Devlin says to Balor, "You're a great wrestler, but a better coach," or something to that effect.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
it's
That was
like,
cool.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you're such a great wrestler, but you trained me to be even better than you are. And I thought this match was a really good like showing for Devlin to put him up against such an established star like Balor. The crowd went absolutely crazy for Balor. They love him more than the like US audience has treated him, even though he's a big like star in the US as well. But it felt like the prodigal son had come home to the UK, and I was a bit worried that, because when they started, I thought, oh my god, he's going to squash Devlin in about a minute, because he seemed to be setting up straight away for the coup de grace. And I thought, yeah, I know he's popular, but you don't want to just kill this guy immediately. But luckily they had a decent showing. Devlin put out some like good stuff. I like the like did a super kick headbutt and Saito suplex combination, which I thought was pretty good. But I also like the fact that Balor was getting so frustrated during it, because he probably thought that he was going to have a bit of an easy night, which is why he probably agreed to doing this, be the plan B if this happened. And he was getting more frustrated every time that Devlin was getting the better of him and stopping him going for the coup de grace. But Balor eventually got it and got the win, which was the right decision to make the crowd happy. And Devlin doesn't lose anything in this defeat.
No, especially because it's like Balor's... Yeah, it's not even an argument. He's the more established superstar. So it's kind of like when people bitch and complain and they're like, oh, John Cena's burying this person by beating them in a match. And it's like, oh, God, they had a 20-minute match and John Cena won. I'm sure he buried them. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, John Cena does bury people. Balor didn't do that in this match.
There's been instances in the past. I'm not saying that he's never done it, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, if you lose to The Undertaker at WrestleMania in a 25-minute match, you're not losing, really. And Jordan Devlin fighting Finn Balor here. Balor is inarguably the bigger superstar, and he's the one who should win just by, I mean, he's not only bigger in terms of popularity, but he's bigger in terms of size. He's more established. He's been around longer. He is the teacher. Like, there's anybody that looks at it and says, like, Devlin should have won, he didn't lose anything by losing, you know?
I agree.
So that was cool. Then I got into a spot that I didn't really like all that much. It was the no disqualification match between Dave Mastiff and Eddie Dennis, and I was very underwhelmed. I thought that this was as bog standard as you could possibly get. Like, they used the 4 things that they use in every single Extreme Rules match. The kendo stick, which has no... I don't understand why the kendo stick is so fucking popular. It not only makes no sense to be out there, like, why are there kendo sticks under the ring ever for any purpose? The chairs I get, the tables I get, the ladders I get, the steps, of course, are there. but why are there kendo sticks? That's like if there would randomly always be a bowling ball under the ring. It's just there shouldn't be one in there. I'm sick of the kendo sticks. And the chairs, of course, don't matter anywhere near as much as what they used to. Tables, you do the whole, we want tables, you do a table spot, whatever. Unless it's a big, super awesome looking table spot, I'm not really going to pop as much as I used to anymore. And the steps are the steps. You slam somebody on it, it hurts. I don't want to fucking do it, but I'm not all that impressed. So, honestly, I thought that this was completely skippable. I didn't get anything out of this except for, wow, Eddie Dennis can actually pick up a big guy like that. That was the most impressive thing in the whole thing to me, was him picking him up.
I wasn't that down on it. I actually thought it was a pretty good brawl. I enjoyed the spot where Eddie Dennis picked him up and his legs almost gave out because it seemed believable, unlike, you know, when people pick up the Big Show and they're just sort of able to do it when they need to. And I like Mastiff's Vader-inspired gear. I thought that
he
was
always
really
wears
cool.
that, though.
So yeah, again, not all that familiar with the brand. And that fucking tumbleweed, man. What a scary sight that must be to see the big man come in the tumbleweed at you.
There's a lot that I liked about this match. I like Mastiff's entrance, where he stomps the mat and the camera shakes. It just makes him look like this dominant guy. Like, you should have it been like an earthquake type entrance. Like, that should have been his entrance if he was been around this time. But the most impressive thing for me, like Toni said, was the power that Dennis was showing. Like, being able to lift a guy like that into a crucifix bomb is pretty incredible. Especially for a guy that looks the sort of build that Dennis has. So I liked that a lot about it. It was fairly by the numbers in terms of, okay, so we're going to use the kendo stick, we're going to use the steel chair, we're going to pull up the mats on the outside, do a move onto those, which is becoming an increasingly like common spot in hardcore matches, especially since the Ciampa and Gargano stuff.
Yeah, they're like, that was great, let's do that.
Yeah. But I didn't hate it. It was a 6 out of 10, really, sort of thing. Like, it was a good match, but it was definitely the weakest on the entire card.
Yeah, I don't want to give off the impression that I hated it. Like, it wasn't like, you know, I'm not writing it down on my worst matches of the year type thing, but I was just sort of like, crap, this was their opportunity to do something that could have been really cool. And I feel like I get the same, if not better, on episodes of SmackDown. Kind of.
Oh, yeah. I think saying that to skip on a match isn't saying that it's bad. It's just that if you only have a certain amount of time or you only want to watch certain aspects of it, this isn't going to blow you away.
Yeah. If this was on a live event, I'm sure the people that are in the live event would love it. Yet, if I were paying, you know, $60 for a pay-per-view, like the way that it would be, I'd feel shortchanged.
Mm-hmm. I can accept that point.
I think Mastiff may be being groomed for a Battle of the Bulls with somebody else. What do you guys think?
He has to, right? Like,
yeah, I think him and Joe Coffey will both be taking on this guy before he gets his title shot, and obviously we'll bring up who this guy is later on. But
which, by the way, the Bomber Dave Mastiff, it kind of just, this is just something stupid that gets under my skin, but I want them to call him Massive Dave Mastiff. I just want that. Like, it just feels like that should be the more natural thing. And every time that they go, hey, the Bomber, I'm like, call him Massive. Like, just kind of.
Well, it's like it's another British reference to the bombers during World War II and World War I and stuff like that. So that's the reference to his thing. But
and he's
got,
you know, Vader and Vader Bomb, and you know.
Oh,
like,
I have to say the springboard moonsault is pretty impressive for a guy of his size. Like, does that moonsault better than RVD ever did?
I don't remember if this was the point in the pay-per-view or not, but fuck it, we'll talk about it here now anyway. They showed in the crowd that Luke Menzies was there. Luke Menzies is part of NXT. He's in the developmental system right now. Performance Center has popped up a couple times here and there, but he's largely just kind of an unknown. They also showed, more importantly, I would say, Kaylee Ray and Jazzy Gabert from the first Mae Young Classic. And it's interesting because there had been some reports recently of Piper Niven getting signed, although she's apparently under contract. And Jazzy Gabert's been somebody that people have been wanting to get signed for a while. Like, she popped up on that Mae Young Classic, stole the show, and people are chanting, "Please sign Jazzy." So they showed interest in her before, but she's had a couple of medical issues, and that kind of hurt things a little bit. And since then, she said that she's trying to do everything she can to be in WWE. The fact that they brought her in here, and not only did they bring her in just to hang around ringside, but I believe it was Nigel, it might have been Vic, said, she is going to have, or, well, the two of them, will play huge factors in NXT UK. And Kaylee Ray doesn't have the same medical things going on, but I believe that, Callum, you said that she's under contract with World of Sport?
Well, as far as I'm aware, she's under contract with World of Sport. She's currently the World of Sport Women's Champion.
So it would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, assume that she's still under contract. If Piper Niven is still under contract, I don't think Piper Niven being under contract with World of Sport is the reason why she wasn't there. She's currently touring Japan. So it's
just a logistics kind of thing.
Yeah, it's unlikely she would have been available to it. I mean, I think she's still touring Japan. She was definitely doing some work with Stardom recently, so it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it's a big coup if they manage to secure both these two, because you would have thought that AEW would have both these two high on their radar for a women's division. Considering the fact that at the moment they've only got Penelope Ford, Britt Baker, and Brandy Rhodes, they're probably trying to fill that out as much as possible. So for these two to be signed, and it seems to be only for the UK division of NXT, seems like a massive coup, considering they would be featured much more prominently on other brands, and realistically, due to their level of talent, probably should be higher featured than the UK division.
Well, Triple H did go out of his way during one of his interviews over this whole Performance Center thing that he was saying that he really wants everybody to have that perception that NXT UK is not a stepping stone, that you could get people that are coming over from the main roster to go over to NXT UK, and that they can kind of establish their own identity in a way that NXT not necessarily hasn't. Because NXT, everybody, I mean, no matter what the case is, as good as NXT is, everybody looks at it as, when are you going to get called up to the main roster? Like, it's just, it's kind of the way that things are. But I think that NXT UK has a little bit more of a chance of kind of carving out its own little niche. And, because it's off of the campus, kind of. I mean, literally speaking, it is, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's on its own little world.
Yeah, that is fair to say, but it's just the fact that it's called NXT makes
the
difficulty of it. If it would call WWE UK, then I completely understand it. It's just the fact that because Triple H is the guy that seemingly made this step happen, he got to call it NXT. So if you name something NXT, you're going to just have the assumption that this is a stepping stone, essentially, and the very, very top echelon of the British talent will end up on the main roster at some point. You have to imagine at some point Pete Dunne will be wrestling on Raw or SmackDown, or Tyler Bate and Toni Storm. But if they don't, then that's completely up to them. Maybe they'll change the name eventually to WWE UK once Triple H has a bit more grasp on the entire thing.
It's also interesting to me, too, Kaylee Ray is Scottish, right?
Yes.
And Jazzy's, I think, German.
Yes.
So they're really going out of their way to make sure that, despite the fact that it's NXT UK and that they sort of presented this as just like the United Kingdom, that they really are kind of making this NXT Europe.
It was supposed to be, and Jazzy Gabbert said this in an interview, it was supposed to be NXT Europe, but then Brexit happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also there's the sense that, well, a lot of the talent is also Australian or from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sense of a lot of these people made their names in the UK. It's not so much about where you're from; it's where you made your name. So I wouldn't be fine with people from America or Canada showing up as long as they're more prominently featured in British wrestling promotions in the past.
They have put Deonna Purrazzo on there a couple times. It's kind of weird because she's just like New Jersey. It's like,
I mean, I assume she's wrestled occasionally in the UK, but I get your point. It should be more just if you've made a name for yourself on the British independent circuit, then you deserve a place in NXT UK.
yeah. Which is interesting because that also makes it to where they don't just run out of people, because it's not just like, well, we got to get people from Wales and that's it, like kind of a thing, you know?
It's very vast, the British wrestling scene. I think they wouldn't have too much trouble getting talent if it was just people from the UK on the show. It'd be worse, but it wouldn't be that much worse.
So those are interesting people to keep our eyes out for, and there's somebody else to talk about later on as well. Also, there's been rumors of Bea Priestley. Is that how you pronounce her name? Bea Priestley?
Yes. She's also currently touring Japan she's in the same stable as Piper Niven is. She's Will Ospreay's girlfriend. So, again, that's good. It could lead to things going forward. She's a very good wrestler as well. I wouldn't put her in the same bracket as Kaylee Ray and Piper Niven, but she's very young, very talented, and would certainly fit in well.
Either way, I'm excited about that. I kind of remember liking Kaylee Ray, and Jazzy was awesome. So, Luke Menzies, I don't really remember all that much about what his matches were, but we'll see.
He's I don't want to say failed, but he was just a pretty bog standard average rugby league player. So, like, he never made it to the top league of the rugby league scene. Like, he was always in the second tier. So, hopefully he stands out a little bit more as a professional wrestler.
Let's see, where do we go from there? We went to the NXT UK Women's Championship match. That was Rhea Ripley defending against Toni Storm, and I have to admit that this was my second least favorite match of the night. I felt like it fell short in a lot of different ways, but the story was good, where Toni Storm's going in as the underdog to a certain extent. She's the more popular one, but you know, she's the smaller of the two. She failed to win before, and I enjoyed the story, I should say, more than I enjoyed the, technicality of the match itself. Toni Storm wins, new champion. That's fun. And it's always good to see that you can genuinely feel that somebody is super happy to win that championship, you know?
Yeah, this whole thing was definitely more about the story. They did bring up personal hardships. I thought they handled that really well. Nigel on commentary and Triple H in the post show, which I don't know if you guys got a chance to check out, but they really put over how she's overcome not only injuries but negative events in her personal life and really rose up to become a champion. And I'm excited. I think they have good things planned for Toni Storm. That's not to say that Rhea Ripley isn't one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, because she is. She's very good. It's just tonight was Toni's night, and I think it would have been prior to, except the taping schedule and the Mae Young Classic.
I have to disagree with the Rhea Ripley statement that you just made. I don't think she was very good in this match. I think she was very plodding and boring. She came across as just generic big person. And it's like when she hit her Riptide move, and apparently it's been built up as like that as her big finisher. And like Vic Joseph sold it as like, oh my god, she kicked out of Riptide. Nobody in the crowd reacted. It's like, oh, she kicked out of a move. It's like nobody seemed to know that.
Slam.
Yeah, it's like nobody even knew that was her finisher. It's like they reacted when Rhea Ripley first kicked out of the Storm Zero, because they know that's Toni Storm's move, but they didn't seem to know as much about Rhea Ripley. I think her moves were pretty generic. I know the story they were trying to tell, like the back injury to Toni Storm playing off the events of the first championship match. But I don't think Ripley's made enough of a name for herself since winning the championship. And that came across quite evidently in this match. The crowd were clearly behind Toni and really wanted Toni to win, and they know her, they're excited for her, they were desperate for her to get the title. And Ripley they essentially could have just put anybody in that and it would have been fine. But the crowd didn't seem to care a great deal about the previous injury. They didn't care about the storyline in the previous match that was being told. They just wanted to see Toni win the title, and they wouldn't really care who was the person she beat to get it.
Yeah, kind of.
God.
No, I kind of agree with what you mean. Rhea Ripley was there to be the adversary for Toni Storm to overcome more so than Rhea Ripley to actually be half of the match.
This
Makes
was
sense.
the one moment where I had an issue with Vic Joseph, because when Toni Storm won the match, I kind of don't feel like he was just kind of like, oh, Storm Zero. Is this it? Like, he didn't seem to have the same excitement that he would have, like, throughout the rest of the night. This was just a weird moment where it fell flat for me.
The Storm victory fell flat?
No, just the way Vic Joseph's commentary over it fell flat.
The best part of me in terms of like the actual layout of the match was it started out with when the way that Ripley got the heat to start with was pulling on the hair of Toni Storm and throwing her out, and the final spot was Toni getting out of the Riptide, pulling on Ripley's hair and then putting her into the Storm Zero again. So I thought that was a nice like weaving narrative they started like from start to finish. But I think the celebration was the big memorable part of it. Really, the match will probably go down as just a little bit of, oh, this happened, and it wasn't bad. It was still good, but the celebration is stuff that they'll use in video packages going forward to commemorate it.
Yeah. Nobody's going to look back on this and be like, well, the top 10 matches of the year was this, but they might look back on it and be like, one of my favorite moments of the year was Toni Storm winning the title.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
It feels like I'm ragging on Ripley too much, really, because she is good, but I came out of that match thinking, well, I can't wait until Toni Storm defends this against someone good, which is really just like a terrible thing to feel, really. Like, I can't wait to have matches with Piper Niven and Kaylee Ray and Jazzy Gabert and Ginny and people like that.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Rhea Ripley is maybe another year away from being the point where she could be a champion and kind of hold her own.
A work in progress, yeah.
Yeah. But thankfully, we got an upgrade after that. You know, it wasn't the type of thing where we've had these events in the past before, usually not NXT, but, you know, WWE does it every once in a while where you start off with a bang and then you start going a little bit downhill and it just kind of keeps going and stuff. But this one, we got a big surge up again at the end for the main event, which is the way that it should be, you know. I mean, ideally, it starts off great and stays great the entire time instead of, like, having to climb up, but you want the main event to be the best at the very least. And thankfully, I think that outside of maybe the NXT UK Tag Team title match, Pete Dunne against Joe Coffey for the United Kingdom Championship, one of the better matches of the night for sure. I mean, there's no argument behind it, and possibly going to be one of the better matches throughout the year. I don't want to put it down on my best matches of the year yet. However, so far it's the best match of the year. And I'm going to pass it off to Callum. I know that Callum, probably more than anybody, is probably the most excited. So take the reins.
I absolutely adored this match, and it took a while for me to get into. Like, I thought the match itself, it started off as a classic, pretty standard British technical wrestling match. And then in the middle, I kind of got the sense of Coffey might have, like, the occasion might be getting to him. He started, like, stuttering through spots and hesitating a bit too much. It looked like he might have been overawed by the situation. I actually went onto Twitter and did a search for Joe Coffey to see what people were talking about him. And basically everyone was saying, wow, Coffey doesn't look up to this sort of position, or Coffey's fucking up a lot and stuff along those lines. But then I think the spot that really turned it around completely was the sit-out powerbomb on the apron. It's like such a hard bump, and the crowd went crazy for it. And from that point on, it seemed like a light bulb switched in Coffey, and he was just on fire completely, and Dunne was on fire. There were so many different like strikes, like the forearm trades, and like kicking out of the bitter end, kicking out of the discus lariat. I loved how much build up they gave to that lariat. It was like he blocks it once, then he blocks it a second time, then he finally hits it, and he gets a big near fall out of it. The crowd was absolutely on fire for this match. The crowd, I've very rarely, maybe even ever, seen a crowd so excited for a main event match. Like, they were beating on the barrier, they were chanting repeatedly. They started an "Are you watching Vince McMahon" chant, which was obviously,
that's what it was.
yeah.
That was like the big long chant that was happening.
Yeah, Are you watching Vince McMahon? Yeah.
See, that I could not understand. I couldn't even tell that it was "Are you watching?" let alone "Are you watching Vince McMahon?" That was one of the ones where it was just kind of like, and I'm like, something's happening here. Like,
it's just all the way they like transitioned load of like punches and kicks. Like, Coffey would unleash like a flurry of punches, and then Dunne would try and kick his face off repeatedly. And yeah, I've very rarely seen so much heat for a match. Like, even if the match itself was sloppy in certain places, the crowd was just on fire. It was electric, and that atmosphere just makes any match insanely better than it ever should be. And I guess we just talk about the spot at the end, where essentially it looks like they're about to do a move off the top rope after Coffey's already done this ridiculous powerbomb off there in like a previous spot. They go up there, and then Coffey falls off and lands just flat on his back on the floor. And you can tell that wasn't planned. That there was no way they wanted to do that spot, because Dunne gets out there, they get up to the place again, and then they both fall off. And I still don't even know whether that was planned or whether that was meant to be the case. But then they get back in the ring. Dunne hits another bitter end. He kicks out, but then he puts him in some sort of finger stretch for the submission. And yeah, it was a great way to finish. It keeps Coffey looking strong because he kicked out so many moves and he took so much punishment. And the crowd were just rabid for him potentially winning. Obviously, as they wanted Dunne to win, but they still obviously built up a lot of respect for his ability as a main eventer off the back of this match. And yeah, you got essentially done over by Pete Dunne's dexterity over attacking people's fingers, which most wrestlers don't do. So yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant match.
Should that be another finisher of his, the Dunne over?
Yeah, that can we do.
That's the name
Dunne
of the
is
submission
over.
to hold now.
Yeah, Dunne is over.
I have to admit, my love of puns. My favorite part of doing coverage for this was that joke that I put up on the Mega Maniacs of they started off the night saying Coffey said that he's bitter, and I was just like, that little cream. Just kinda... it's just like, you're doomed when you're marking Joe Coffey. Like, perpetually, I'm going to try to think of ways to make Coffey things out of that. But
that's why they probably became like giant wrestlers, because they probably bullied for their rest of their entire like childhood and stuff like that. But...
hey, I can speak to it. My last name.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't.
Man.
God knows how many different times people have done the whole like, oh, if you have a kid, should you name the kid like Kiwi? And it's like, no, I'm not gonna hate my kid. But yeah, I mean, if they have like a third brother named like Folgers or Maxwell House or something like that, actually they probably could have Maxwell Coffey, and then it probably would work out pretty well. But I know that you, Rob, you came out of this being like, oh shit, like, I see you, Joe Coffey. You know?
Yeah, because we had all kind of just said, well, we know Joe Coffey's not winning. And I went into this match with that same vibe of like, I'm just waiting for the end. And like, I really got into this and started to believe that maybe there was a chance that we don't see a surprise ending and somebody else coming out and we see Joe Coffey win, because he really took it to Dunne. And those top rope spots were nasty. Just fucking brutal. And I gotta tell you, I really left this being like, yeah, Joe Coffey can easily be on any brand in any show. And this might have been another early contender for match of the year alongside the tag match earlier in the night. It's just a great match. Are you watching Vince McMahon? It was one of the funniest chants. I do want to say he did tweet, yes, I watched. Yes, it was awesome.
That'd be great if he tweeted no. God, imagine the fucking like vitriol that would come out if he just retweeted to somebody that was putting that and he just said, nah. Like, tweeted a picture of himself in bed with like I don't know, like breakfast in bed, like caviar and shit. Just major heel mode.
But
Oh, I wish he would have done that. That would have been so good. Even if he's just
great match.
backstage.
Great match. I think Callum summed it up beautifully. And then there was the ending, which, by the way, NXT is great at these fucking endings because they do the thing where it's like, okay, credits rolling. There's your, ending screen at the bottom right, and you think it's over, and then bang, they hit you with a surprise.
Well, to be fair, Callum kind of set up the idea that they could have who ended up coming out, which was Walter. And once you put that into the atmosphere, I was like, all right, now I want that to happen. Like, I would have been disappointed if they wouldn't have done that, because I kind of, towards the end of this, I was getting a little bit nervous that they were going to actually give the title to Coffey. And then I was like, man, they really should just, like, they got to have Pete Dunne retain, and they got to have Walter come out, and he has to do something like beat Pete Dunne down. We didn't quite get that 100%. Instead, we got Walter comes out, and he comes out, by the way, to Dvorak's New World, Symphony No. 9, which I love that song. If you don't know, it's the song that starts off where it sounds like the Jaws theme. It's like dun 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 dun. Really cool. It was Marcel Bartel's theme, which I guess he's not using that anymore.
Well, that's the song that Walter used on the independent circuit.
Oh, so he takes precedent over it.
Yes, they bought it especially for him, essentially.
Good.
So you can use it.
That's probably what's it called? Royalty free now at this point. Free domain.
I imagine so. Yeah.
But I think that suits somebody like him better, because Bartel, like, it was kind of cool to see somebody come out to that as something different, but it has an ominous feel to it, and this Walter dude is a big fucking monster. So yeah, I love that idea, and it's got like a regal kind of feel to it too. Like, it's impending doom, but something that makes you kind of go like, I respect it. Like, go ahead and kill me, you know. So
he's the scariest thing to come out of Austria since a certain like pencil moustached guy a couple of decades ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's such an incredible physical specimen. Like I say, he's not like stand out in terms of his like muscular capacity. He's just a big, like, badass looking guy. Like, the coat or like jacket thing that he was wearing just looks great. Just makes him stand out a lot. He gets in the ring, stares down Pete Dunne. Joe Coffey tries to just launch an attack, and he gets booted out of the ring immediately. I was so disappointed that it wasn't a chop, because that would have just, like, the crowd would have gone mental for that if he'd hit. But I think they're going to try and save his first chop for maybe his first match or first big match. But yeah, and I love the fact that it was just a stare down. I don't think they're not making Walter a heel immediately, which I think is a great thing to do, because he's too over to make a heel at this point. He's too well known, he's too well liked, he's too well respected in the UK to make him heel immediately. So if they build it up as a sort of babyface against, like, a big babyface that will play the pseudo heel in a match against Pete Dunne, who's also shown heelish tendencies, and they both just going to have a match at the next takeover, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
yeah, I'm actually more into that than if they would have had him come out and just been like, I'm Walter, fuck all the fans, and, like, some kind of a thing like that. Like,
Triple H knows. He knows this guy. He knows this guy, what this guy's about, and he knew that just having him come out as just a generic big man heel and launching an attack would just not go over as well as this would.
Plus, it's more of like, this sounds really kind of strange to say, but it's more WWE than anything else. Like, if you were to have him come out and do the whole, like, I'm going to establish myself as a heel and cut a promo and do the whole, like, character work type thing, I would feel like they were trying too hard. This is simple. You know that the guy is an impending threat. You know that now, eventually, when he fights Pete Dunne, despite being a champion for over 600 days, he's going to be the underdog. You establish everything you need to establish already with one kick and a stare down. Now, going forward, you can build on that, and you're not just like, shooting your wad immediately. It's a really horrible way for me to say that. But you know where I'm going with it, where it's just like now I get to see, because I've never really watched Walter. I did see that chop that for Zack Sabre Jr., which Jesus Christ, and I get to see the progression of like, if I'm not familiar with this guy, show me what I should be familiar with as this continues, instead of just doing it all and then I have to wait a couple months, you know?
So one thing, and it's probably UK kind of stereotype, the way that they carry themselves, and they're so much more polite than Americans. And I got that vibe at the end of this, where, you know, they're staring each other down, and he only hit Coffey because Coffey was trying to steal the moment. And then he just sort of looked at Dunne and he's like, all right, good job. you know what's coming, but good job.
Proper fight, chap.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think that certain crowds would have been upset that they didn't start fighting at the end, but I think they understood the context of it and they just let Walter go out and started applauding again. So they know they're going to see that match. They know that match is going to be absolutely awesome. And yeah, I can't wait for that to happen. I am not going to sit in my watching this on the network. I have to be there to see that match live, because it is going to rock all kinds of socks. Yeah, go for the rhyming thing there. Rock my socks off, essentially.
How annoyed would you be if it's like, if you want to see that live, you better save up for those tickets because it's coming to Orlando.
It's at WrestleMania. Ha ha.
I mean, I think I'd probably cancel my network subscription. That's probably the last you'd see of me on the podcast, but
they're like, we're gonna bring NXT UK over. We're gonna make this a big deal. It's gonna be in Macon, Georgia. Whoa, yeah. I mean, ultimately, what this event is it was their first attempt at doing something to really establish the brand beyond just. They did the 2 tournaments. The first tournament, that got things started, but then they did that whole lull. It was an entire year where they didn't do a damn thing, really. So they had to start all over again, kind of. And that second tournament, I think, was kind of a dud. And they started with these NXT UK shows, and they started that off in the wrong way, too. They recorded things months in advance, and they started doing this whole, let's switch around the time zone and all the other kind of things like that, and we'll do 1 hour, then we'll do 2 hours, and we'll do it at different times and all this. So they've been starting off 2 solid years worth of, God, come on, guys, why are you making that decision? And this was their attempt to go, look, I know we fucked up, but this is the kind of stuff you're going to get going forward. It's the same as NXT. I think that they showed that off pretty well. And if people tuned into this that haven't been watching NXT UK, I think that there's more of a chance for sure that they're going to watch NXT UK going forward. I still will have to admit, I kind of expect people to stay the same and not watch it. But ultimately, only positives when it comes out of this. There's no negatives that came out of it. I'm down on the no DQ match. It didn't hurt anything. It wasn't a bad match. It was just kind of meh. And they impressed. They did their job, and they exceeded it in certain ways, too. And I'm actually more looking forward to NXT UK now, of course, than I was heading into this. So, thumbs up on my end. How you guys feeling?
I agree completely. Thumbs up. It's a great show. I like what they're doing. I like that Triple H was kind of like, hey, listen, you're going to see more WWE guys come here. This is like a UK territory in a way for the WWE, and not just like, oh, it's NXT and they eventually have to go to Raw or SmackDown. This is a different venture entirely, and they're doing so well.
Yeah, they've set the rest of the WWE events that are happening in January on notice, because this is a great way to start the show. I know we jokingly said at the start of in the prediction saying, is this going to be the best event of the year? And I'll tell you what, it's going to take some events a lot of work. I assume it won't be the best, but it will take a lot of work to supplant this going forward. This, in my mind, maybe I'm the only person who thinks this would rank. It would certainly match up to the expectations or levels that you'd expect from a regular NXT TakeOver show.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's what I want to see. And I think shows going forward will build on this and maybe be even better. But this was a great starting act. If it hasn't attracted everybody to watch NXT UK, it's certainly attracted me. I'm not missing a single episode of NXT UK up until the next show they do, because I want to be involved with it. They've excited me enough to the point that I want to see all these new players come in. I want to see how they build up the Walter and Pete Dunne feud. I want to see who's going to be the next one after the Tag Team Championships. I want to see who Storm's first challenge is going to be.
Ginny.
Yeah, I know it's going to be Ginny, but you know,
yeah, but you know,
I want to see eventually get built up. I want to see like when Kaylee Ray or Piper Niven or whoever gets drafted in to challenge her. There's so much positive coming out of this. It makes me feel bad that I missed out on so much of it going forward. But I know NXT UK show itself hasn't been the most exciting, but I think this is a launching pad to a lot more exciting and a lot more intrigue surrounding the brand, at least in theory.
So now that we've seen this, and we know that realistically they're not going to do this, before every Big Four event or something like that, when do you guys want to see realistically the next NXT UK takeover?
July.
I'd go May. Maybe
as soon as May.
Maybe, yeah, I think 4 months is enough time. Like three or 4 a year. I think that'd be fine. But maybe they could try and play off, or try and put it on at the same time as AEW's Double or Nothing. Try and get a few. I mean, it'd be a stupid idea, but maybe they'd put it like the week beforehand or something like that, and try and put on an amazing show so people watch AEW and think, oh, it was a good show, but it wasn't quite as good as the NXT UK show that was the week before or whatever. I could understand. I could expect them to do something like that.
I'm still leaning towards July as well. I think maybe June, depending on what they do with Money in the Bank. It wouldn't shock me at all if they only did one more this year, and I think that's okay. I don't want them to kind of force to do like, a couple extra ones and then kind of like burn themselves out. I'm okay with building up a slow burn for this, because it's not like we don't have enough events as they are, Either way, I'm excited for the next one, So whenever it happens, whether it's, April or May or June or whatever, you'll be checking out the post-show and predictions and all the other kind of stuff that comes along with it on this site, because we're not going to abandon that one. Definitely not for now. But that's it, I guess, for our predictions and predictions. I'm already jumping ahead to next week's. Not even next week's, the weeks after that. God, all over the place here. Too many events. That's why we don't need to have another NXT UK takeover. That's it for our review of NXT TakeOver UK, Blackpool, whatever. I don't know. And we want to know what you guys have to say about this. So drop your comments below and tell us what you thought. If you didn't watch the event, tell us why you didn't. Tell us what they haven't sold you on yet. And I think that we can all agree here. We advise you to tune in and to check it out, even if you're not super into it. You got a couple hours you could spare, I'm sure. So make sure you do that in the comments below. If you are on iTunes and Stitcher, leave them on the comments on the website. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Make sure that you're subscribing on the YouTube channel and ringing that little bell for the notifications of when the next videos are coming out, because the next things that are going to be happening on this channel are the hot tags and what we had already recorded, actually, the Royal Rumble 2013 audio commentary track, the fan outs table. So that's happening over the course of the next bunch of days. You need to be aware when that gets posted so you can watch them. And on top of that, we got a whole lot of other things that you can be checking out on smarkoutmoment.com. There's also the TeePublic and the Redbubble shops if you want to pick up some merchandise. And another way that you can throw some spare change our way and help us out is the Patreon, so take advantage of the tiers over on there. There's another one also for fanboysanonymous.com, so check out the fanboy stuff that is happening over on that site. I've got plenty of my other kind of material all out there, so follow me at Tony Mango all over the place and start doing the clickety-click, and then you can do the same thing for these guys as well. Rob?
Yeah, you can find me doing news for eWrestling News and WrestleZone.com. I just posted quite a few things on eWrestling News as we were doing this podcast. NXT UK TakeOver results, Hiroshi Tanahashi interview recap, an updated card for tomorrow's Ring of Honor, Honor Reigns Supreme, all that good stuff. WrestleZone.com doing some great stuff over there with the WrestleZone Daily on their Facebook page. And for me personally, you can follow me at DudeFelice on Twitter and Instagram, and check out my clothing line, Time Killer Apparel, because that's what I do on the side, because it's not always all about pro wrestling. And that's all I got, Callum.
You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings that are recently posted. I think Seth Rollins was top of this week due to his standout performances on Monday Night Raw. But you'll have to find out the rest of the top 10 by checking out the article itself and all the other weekly stuff on smarkoutmoment.com. And stay tuned for maybe a future podcast or something of that ilk coming very soon to Smark Out Moment, or Smack Talk at least. So I'm out.
And that is us. That is going to do us in. Thank you, of course, for listening to this and all your support, whether it's a like, a share, a favorite, a comment, or whatever the hell else that's happening. We will see you next time, everybody. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.